So in this video we are going to break down a Jupiter XM demo track that I made a while back. I got asked by Roland to do a performance using the Jupiter XM at their launch event in 2019 at Abbey Road Studios. So I thought I got a pre-production model of the Jupiter XM because it wasn't released yet at that time, and I tested it out. And what I planned first was to do a performance where I would put the Jupiter XM as part of my keyboard rig. But having it for a while, I realized that I can actually do a track using only the Jupiter XM. And that is what I did. And the track it consists of two different parts. And actually it's also two different scenes. So we have one main scene and we have one introductory scene as well. And the main scene is actually based on a factory preset made by Gotobus called Jupiter Edge, and it sounds like this. So it's an I arpeggio which plays, handles the drums, bass, and you have an kind of electric guitar type of sound together with the lead. So I kept most of those elements, but I added another lead sound because I wanted the lead sound to be slightly different, and so I used my JX8P, and I had a lead sound that I liked from that one, and I put that lead sound instead on top of it, so we got something like this. I've also now raised the whole pitch just one semitone, just not to have it in C. I thought the tune needs to have a slightly higher pitch because it's anyway kind of a quite melodic and kind of happy tune in a way. And of course I'm just limited to 3 octaves on the XM, so I had to play from lower C to higher C. So basically C is the natural key to play in because with only 3 octaves to use. So that's the main scene basically. Well, I can split it down for you more. We have the arpeggio, as I mentioned, handles the drums, and let's see. So the drums and bass basically. And again, if you play faster, it will respond to your playing. And then I have a guitar as well, and the guitar is also handled by the arpeggiator. So it's being arpeggiated together with the bass and drums. And I have the lead sound, which I showed you. So that's a JX8P lead sound. So the fourth part is an interesting sound because it has a split in it. So on the left hand you have a sample and whole type of bass line, and on the upper hand you have a pad. And that pad has an additional element which comes in when you play it long enough. Here you can hear coming in. So all that adds up to the whole sound. that's the main part. So the introductory part consists of a few different arpeggios, and one of them is a Juno 106 sound. And this is basically it's just an arpeggio that goes like upwards 2 octaves, spanning 2 octaves. The second arpeggio which is going on is also that's a JX8B sound actually. And it's the same arpeggio, it goes upwards flowing, but it's half the speed basically, or even more than half the speed. It's like every fourth, it goes on every fourth of the beat, while the Juno 106 arpeggio goes every 16th note of the beat. And then on top of those, I'm adding the lead on. So what's happening is basically I have the arpeggios playing, and in the beginning I have to sync the arpeggios because they will be in sync, but they won't necessarily start on the first note that I would like them to start on. So let's see if I can get the first note here. Okay, I think. Yeah, now I was just lucky. They happened to go on the right note. So this is I basically have everything silent and I press down a chord, and after that I start to add volume and filter and level. I'm using the pedal at the same time as I'm using the sliders. So I have programmed the sliders to adjust adjust cutoff on the sounds, and the other slider adds volume of the JX8B part. And I have the foot controller as well that I use live, because live I want to have my hands free for playing, so I just use the foot controller. And now when I have played this for a while, I also adding delay and chorus for the Juno arpeggio. And just at the point when I think now is a good time, then I start playing the lead motif, which goes like this. So it's interesting how the arpeggios respond. I mean, these are no intelligent arpeggios. They just go by themselves basically. It's just normal arpeggios. So if you listen to what's happening beneath, this is what happens beneath. Let me remove the. Yeah, sorry. And then I can also adjust how the arpeggios play by playing more legato, more staccato. Then there will be like longer arpeggios. So. Difficult to say now, but when you hear it in a context, then you realize what they do. Although, to be honest, it can be quite difficult to know what actually is happening here. But this is the basics of it, how it's split down. So we have the arpeggios going on the bottom, and I can play with playing more legato or more staccato. I can impact how the arpeggios respond while I'm playing the melody on top of it. So that's basically that one. And I think I have doubled the main lead, so I have a fourth part which handles the bass. So that's a slightly different. I mean, it's based on the same sound, but it's not a shorter tail. For performing this tune live, I'm using the help of a tablet. So the tablet is connected to the Jupiter XM by Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is a bit slow in protocol because you get some latency and actually some random latency, but it's perfectly fine for just doing like things like switching on and off parts and adjusting faders. It's perfectly fine for that. But the reason why I used the pad was at the time when I performed the tune, the unit was in a pre-production model, and I only had the beta version of the operating system. So now I can do things already from the panel. You can adjust. For instance, I have part number 3. The level of the second synth arpeggio can be adjusted by a slider. I used to do it from the tablet, but I can do it from the slider as well now. And after the latest firmware update, I can also switch parts on and off using the keyboard. So you can see on the screen up here that I can the parts on and off that I previously had to use the iPad for. I can now switch on and off from the panel. The same thing with the arpeggio. I can choose which arpeggio parts to put on and off from the panels, and you can actually adjust yourself how you want the buttons to work. And so this is quite flexible actually. So there are a few things that I still need the pad for. So I have for instance, a couple of macro buttons. So I have one solo button, and what the solo button does, it turns off the JX8B sound. And it also turns off the arpeggiator for the distorted guitar. So I can play it live instead. So and there is one more important macro button, and that's the end button. And the end button it switches off the arpeggios, and it hits a kick, it hits a tom, and it hits 2 or 3 basic notes, different parts like that. So that's my ending sound, and I needed to trigger it from here. But the problem when it's by Bluetooth, it's like it's not so exact. I would like to hit on number 1, but it's like the latency is a bit random all the time. So of course, if you would like to do this like properly, then you should have a cable connected so that you can actually trigger it like a MIDI controller. But as I mentioned, Bluetooth is fine if you just you do sliders and stuff. But for triggering, I would probably use a cable. But anyway, for the sake of demonstration, we're going with Bluetooth right now. And then I have a few other things that I do. I have one button on the S1 button on the Jupiter XM. So when I press that, it advances to the second part, to the main part. So that's the way I can go from playing and I can do that just by like pressing the button while I'm still almost holding the keys with my left hand. And so it's really convenient to have these switch buttons up here, so you can program them to do different kinds of stuff. And in the intro part, it's really handy to just be able to jump and go on with the tune. So that's basically how I perform the tune live. And next I'm going to perform it for you.